Hi everyone, it's Rachel back with the Shades of Orange, and today I'm here to bring you my fall TBR. These are the books I'm planning on reading over the months of September and October. I'd like to start doing seasonal TBRs on my channel, so let me know if this is something that you're interested in. It gives you a preview of what's coming in my future wrap-ups and also gives you the opportunity in some cases to read along with me. These are going to include the books for my Space Opera September readathon, and as well, of course, the books that I'm planning on reading for Halloween, because for some reason all of you seem very interested to know what someone who reads horror all year round is planning on reading during spooky season. So if that sounds good, stick around, let's get started. First, let's talk about horror. Specifically, let's start with the two books for my horror patron book club. And for September, they voted on the theme of haunted houses, which you all know is not my favorite, but apparently my patrons love these books, so I agreed to go along with it. And the book that they voted on that won the poll was The House of 100 Whispers by Graham Matheson. This is actually a book I recently reviewed on my channel and gave a pretty mediocre review to, so I was really surprised when everyone was really excited to read it, and kind of made me wonder if anyone actually watches these videos. But regardless, the book is about a man whose father has recently passed away, and so he takes his family over to the estate, and while they're reading the will, his young son disappears, and the story follows as they search for the boy, and crazy things go from there, let's say. And I'm curious to revisit this book. Hopefully I enjoy it a lot more the next time around, because like I said, haunted house stories to begin with aren't really my thing, but it will make for a really fun discussion. So if you are interested, I always have links down below if you want to join us on Patreon and Discord for that. However, October I'm very excited for, and I did a takeover of the patron group and chose books from my own TBR, and so the book that they voted on based off of that was Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury. And this is a book I actually don't know a ton about. It's very much a classic story of coming of age. It's set in the fall about a circus or carnival that comes to town. And I've wanted to read it for quite a while. It's such an iconic book, and I really have liked Bradbury's other work. I read Fahrenheit 451 years ago and remember really enjoying it. I am due for a reread, and I just recently read The Martian Chronicles, more of a, of course, sci-fi book, but really enjoyed that one as well. So I'd like to read more of his horror, and my whole book club is really excited. It is the perfect book for spooky season. A lot of them have read it already, but they're excited to reread it, and I am so excited to check it out for the first time. So you're definitely going to hear about that in the next coming months. Next, I want to talk about a few horror books I plan to read on my own. The first one being Child Grave by Ken Greenwall, and this is a bit of a classic or vintage horror book that follows a photographer whose young daughter tells him that she is seeing these invisible or imaginary people. At first he just assumes that it's her imagination going wild, but then soon enough in his own photographs he starts to see these children, and the story goes from there. There is something about Halloween that makes me crave older horror books, even though my tastes normally make me lean towards the really modern recent releases, but I have this one on my TBR for quite a while. I'd like to check it out. I like the idea that it uses technology or photographs as part of the story. That's something I really like as a trope or premise, is when you have things showing up in photographs that you're not seeing in real life, and are they there, what is going on? And yeah, I'm just really hoping this one works for me. I haven't read anything by this author before, and I'm obviously hoping it works out really well. Another book I'm planning on checking out is actually a reread, and that is Horns by Joe Hill. This is a story of a young man who is possibly accused of killing his girlfriend. The evidence isn't really there, so he walks free, but everyone in the town where he lives believes that he did it. He is a very unlikable young man, and one day he wakes up and finds that horns are growing out of his head, and along with that he finds that he can then hear the thoughts of other people, or specifically he can hear their naughty, dirty thoughts when they have sinful thoughts going through their head. And I love this story the first time I read it because it was both horrifying but also quite humorous. It had almost a dark satire to it, which doesn't always work for me, but it worked really well. It was very adult and vulgar, but I like the fact that you get to kind of pry into these sinful, inappropriate thoughts of other people that I think a lot of people actually do think these kind of things, but you just don't know it because they don't say it out loud. This is also a book that I included in my top 10 horror books that I recorded and posted last year. And while I put that book in the video, I admitted at the time that it had been so many years since I read the book that while my memory of it is really positive, I really needed to reread it and see if it still holds up. So that is what I'm finally doing. I just feel like, again, Halloween is the perfect time to do that. And so I'm really eager to revisit this book and see if it lives up to my memory or if it's going to disappoint me. But yeah, I'm so excited to get back to this one. I remember really loving it, and I hope that it happens again, that I just have this fantastic experience reading it. And then from there, I'm going a little bit off the beaten path and picking up a horror nonfiction book, not something I normally do, but I've had this book on my radar for years. It's showed up on TBRs before, but it's never gotten read, and that is Hostage to the Devil by Malachi Martin. And this is a story that accounts, I believe, 5 different modern exorcisms that took place in the United States, and it's told from the perspective of an exorcism priest. And I'm just really fascinated by possession stories in fiction, and so I want to try reading some nonfiction. Now, I have heard there are tons of issues around these cases, around the author, and I'm going in as a huge skeptic, so feel free to comment about this more in the comments below. But I am going in very much with my eyes open. I am not a blind believer by any means, but I am really curious to see how this book is going to be written and how compelling it can be. So it's just one of these books that I have to check out for myself, but I am someone who is a huge skeptic. I normally steer far away from any nonfiction horror because I don't tend to believe it. But this one just keeps bubbling up. It keeps ending up back on my Goodreads TBR, and I just need to check it out for myself and see if it holds my attention. If I read it, I'm going to kind of treat it like fiction, even though it's presented as nonfiction. So bear that in mind. If I finish it, definitely you'll get a review from me. And last, for Stabby books, more thriller or mystery than actual horror, I really want to read a book that is coming out this fall called The Apollo Murders by Chris Hadfield. If you don't know, the author is actually the acclaimed and well-known Canadian astronaut, and I'm a huge fan of his work. I have read his memoir and loved it. I got a chance to hear him speak in person. I just think he's an incredible man. He is just so charismatic and has really done amazing things for the space program. He has come out and written a murder mystery book, specifically a sci-fi mystery set back in, I believe, the 1960s following the Apollo missions, and there was someone killing off the astronauts, and it just sounds amazing. I'm hoping it lives up to my impossible hype because I'm really excited for it. I have heard that it's supposed to have a lot of factual science in it, or at least a lot of realistic representation of what the space program was like at that time, the real experience of being an astronaut. So I'm hoping to really have a lot of those details put into the book, and hopefully the mystery itself is good. I imagine that there's a ghostwriter that is helping him out, but I am all here for it. I am so excited, and he's just one of those ridiculously talented people. So if anyone can pull off being an astronaut and a really good author, I definitely think that Chris Hadfield has a good chance of doing that. So I'm so excited. I just need to get my hands on it. Now, switching gears to science fiction, I first want to talk about the books that I plan to read for Space Opera September, which is a month-long readathon hosted and run by Thomas from SFF 180, one of my favorite SFF or science fiction booktubers and a good friend of mine. I love this readathon. I think it's so much fun, and I'm always happy for a reason for more people online to be reading space opera. So I'm going to link to his videos down below. They are so creative, so worth watching, and will explain all of the challenges so much better than I can. So bear with me. I'm just going to show you my TBR. The first book is one I planned to read before the readathon announced, so this worked out really well. And yes, I think a lot of you are going to be excited that finally I'm reading Dune by Frank Herbert. This is a book I wanted to read for a while, and with the movie coming out, it's about time I got to it. I am very excited, but also very nervous for this one. It is such an iconic story. It is so beloved. And yeah, I gotta do it. Let me know if you want me to do like a reading vlog for it, or what kind of content you'd like to see around this book with the movie coming out. And for the Space Operas challenges, this works for both being a book that was written before I was born, as well as being a book that is over 500 pages. So that works out really well. The other books I plan to read for Space Opera September are the 3 books in the Binti trilogy. And these books follow a young Black girl who are leaving her family in order order to go to a university, and I really want to revisit these books. So I read the first one years ago. I remember liking it, but at the time I remember being a little bit underwhelmed. But I have since then gone back and reread Binti, and oh my goodness, I do not know why I didn't love it. Nnedi Okorafor is an amazing author and I loved it. So I want to reread book one once again and then continue on and finish out the trilogy with the other two books. This will complete a few challenges, including reading an Own Voices diverse story, as well as completing a trilogy. And I've been really dying to read these books, so it worked out perfectly when the challenges were announced. And the last challenge I'm going to attempt for Space Opera September is a book battle, and I was so excited when Thomas, the host of the readathon, asked if I wanted to do a book battle with him. I immediately said yes. So basically how it works is that we each challenge each other to read a book, and if we both complete the books, we win and our parts of the galaxy are safe. However, if one of us DNFs the book or doesn't finish it, the other person wins. So I recommended a book to him called Ancestral Night by Elizabeth Bear, which is high up on my TBR. I read another book by her, Machine, and I just think from what I know of that book, I think he's gonna like it a lot, which maybe was a bad choice. Maybe I should have picked a book he would hate so that he would DNF it. So maybe I'm doing this book battle wrong. But the book that he recommended to me was Do You Dream of Terra 2 by Temi O. And this is a really beloved story about a group of young people that are sent off to colonize another planet. And maybe he is doing this smart because I'm excited to read this book. It is by a Black author and I know tons of people online who love it. But I gotta say, I've heard that it reads very young and kind of reads like a young adult, and I'm kind of worried I'm gonna hate it, but I am determined to win this book battle. So regardless, I'm gonna finish it. You're definitely gonna get a review, so stay tuned for that. Hopefully I enjoy it a lot more than I think I am because I'm kind of nervous going into this one, I'll be honest. And finally, I want to talk briefly about a few fantasy books I'm excited to get to. The first one being The Black Tides of Heaven by Neon Young. And this is the first book in, I believe, a quartet that feature diverse queer characters. They are Asian-inspired fantasy, which is basically all of my buzzwords. Tor is bringing out a new bind-up, and so I definitely want to check it out when it is released, so I'm expecting to be reviewing that. And I also plan to do a reread of Jade War by Fonda Lee, the second book in the Bone Saga series, and I've just reread Jade City, and so I'm on to reread Jade War in preparation for Jade Legacy coming out this winter. I am so excited, I am so hyped, and I can't wait to revisit that book. It was such a favorite of last year, and I've just been dying to go back to the world of Keikon. As well, I also want to read a couple of historical fiction, which are basically fantasy with really low magic rate. So I just hauled these, so I'm planning on checking out The Last Kingdom as well as the second book, The Pale Horseman, both by Bernard Cornwell. These, of course, are the books that were inspired and brought about the adaptation on Netflix called The Last Kingdom, and so these are Viking-inspired historical fiction. I've really been loving the TV show, and so I do want to check out the books. I do like to read books that I haul pretty reasonably fast, so I don't want to leave these on my shelves and just wait till I get less excited about them. So I want to read them while I'm still really excited about the TV show, and it's the start of a really long series, so these will keep me busy if I get really sucked into this world. So keep you posted on that if anyone is interested in me reading historical fiction. Not my usual genres. So that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this seasonal TBR, let me know so I can make another one when the winter season comes around. I would love to hear what books you're planning on reading for September and October. Are you participating in Space Opera September like I am? I'd love to hear your TBR, as well as what books you're planning on reading for the spooky season of Halloween. If you're new to my channel, consider subscribing. I do read a lot of these genres, so horror, thrillers, science fiction, and fantasy. And you can help me out by giving this video a thumbs up, hitting that little notification bell so you never miss a video from me. Thank you so much for watching. Talk to you again soon. Okay, bye-bye.